answer than you may think.
Okay, darn.
There have been some genetic creations that would be similar to that in Atlantean times that may have given rise to some of those legends. In terms of them existing physically as a species on your Earth, no, but they are part of the nature world that again is a slightly altered, shifted vibrational reality to yours that sometimes overlaps in your reality, and therefore sometimes people who are sensitive to it can sometimes perceive those kinds of beings, but they don't exist in your normal physical reality.
All right. Dragons?
Similar idea. Again,
dragons.
they are beings that are of a higher dimensional level that you can interact with, but they exist between the planes of dimensions. They are never presenting themselves in your physical reality as the dragon that you think they do. They look quite different when they come into your reality. But the idea is that you perceive them in the way that you do when they're in their own natural state in between the dimensions. But they are higher levels of wisdom.
Megalodon.
Well, that exists. It's a giant shark.
Does it exist right now?
Several do.
Yes!
In the very depths of your oceans.
Awesome.
And a few other things you haven't found yet.
Oh, cool. Way cool. How about a hollow earth?
No, not physically.
Okay.
Again, people that may have, without intending to, crossed through different dimensional vortices may find themselves in a reality that because of their understanding of physical reality, they think actually physically is inside the Earth, when in fact they're no longer on the Earth anywhere at all.
Huh. Really?
So they just make the assumption when they come back through that particular portal that they've actually physically been inside the Earth, and they haven't. They've been somewhere else.
So there is, in a sense, something special about the idea of Sasquatch being the original hominid form that evolved on your planet. Now, you already have heard us talk about how cats can see into other dimensions, dogs can see spirits, and so on and so forth. Well, because it's more connected to nature, the Sasquatch hominid already had these abilities and was able, because they are a hominid, to push them with thought processes into a different form of recognition, recognizing parallel realities more clearly, and learning over time how to identify with those parallel realities so strongly, or other dimensions so strongly, that they began to shift into them just by the focus that they concentrated on with regard to their relationship to those particular dimensions or parallel realities, which the animals don't need to do per se. Although there are some animals that can slip in out of other dimensions from time to time. Some insects have this ability, some mammals have this ability, though it's relatively rare because it's relatively unnecessary for them to do so. However, hominids, being a little bit different in the sense of being the foundation of Homo sapiens, had the ability to contemplate certain things and focus on certain other dimensional or parallel realities they were perceiving with their natural abilities. And so in focusing that way, gave themselves the ability to actually shift in directions that most animals don't need to.
About the crop circle phenomena, which I'm
Yes.
really very interested in, and
You're
I
seeing
love the beauty
slices of a
them.
much higher dimensional form. You're only seeing a slice, a two-dimensional slice of a higher dimensional form that is the product of the collective consciousness of your world, and it's engaged with the consciousness of other realities, including the consciousness of nature itself. Wow. You're giving yourself messages and learning how to read them from a higher perspective. It's like having a communication dialogue literally with the collective higher consciousness of the entire planet.
Wow.
You're talking to Gaia. The Earth is expressed like anything in a number of dimensions. In some dimensions, you would perceive the planet as two-dimensional, flat in your language, as you say. But that's a perception of another dimensional expression of the Earth. The Earth in your dimension isn't flat. It's a sphere because that's how it's expressed in your dimensions, 3 of space and 1 of time. And there are higher dimensional versions of the Earth as well. But when people start expanding and exploring their consciousness in new ways, sometimes they can take some things a little too literally in the same dimension when what they're perceiving is aspects of things in other dimensions, because now their senses can stretch far enough to see that. But they sometimes misunderstand and assume that what they're perceiving in another dimension is actually the truth of this dimension, and it's not.
Did the world face a catastrophic event in the 1980s that erased history that caused the Mandela Effect? And if not, what is the Mandela Effect?
Now, sometimes it's just an issue of a person's memory being a little bit out of alignment. However, there is a true Mandela Effect, and the Mandela Effect is that every single moment that you redefine yourself in the present, you're actually changing the past. But as you expand your consciousness, sometimes you can now contain the memory of more than one past. And therefore, some people might say, no, history went this way, and they can be true about that. And another person can say, no, I completely remember it differently, and they can be true about that. So it's possible now, as you expand your consciousness, to remember more than one history, because you're changing your past every single time you change your present. But when you do that, for the most part, the idea of the past you now know was always your past has to present itself as if it was always your past for it to make sense linearly in your physical reality terms. But 5 minutes ago, you may not have had the same past at all. But whatever the new past is will make itself seem like that's always been the way the past was in order for you to live a life that makes sense in the present. But you're changing your past every moment that you change the present.
I always felt that there was a crystal skull buried under the sea.
You are talking about the master skull, the zero skull.
Yes, I am.
For that is the central seat of ancient Atlantis, is in the Bahamian Islands, in parts of Florida, in parts of what you now call Cuba and Puerto Rico. The empire stretched far and wide from there, but that was the central seat in that area. When the ocean level was much lower, you can see the larger landmass that was there before the oceans rose and inundated the central system of the Atlantean Islands. Why do you think there is a Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, that's what I felt. That must be the powerhouse for that, isn't? Is that the powerhouse?
The zero skull.
Zero skull.
Creates in the natural portal that exists in that area massive interdimensional fluctuations. It's not the powerhouse. The portal is natural, but the zero skull affects it in a very specific way that allows it to keep shifting interdimensionally in unpredictable ways at this point, because it is no longer focused. It's like, well, I'll just use this particular euphemism that most of you will understand. It's sort of like somebody left the stove on. But no one has access to turn it off anymore or to focus it properly. So it's still running, so to speak, by interacting with the portal, but in an uncontrolled manner.
Specifically in the United States, the western area.
Mount Shasta is a chakra point. Sedona is a vortex. The Bermuda Triangle is a vortex.
Is there any significance between Los Angeles and Las Vegas being these two major cities?
Of course there is a difference.
I mean, and energy-wise, is there any activity underneath the city?
You can see the difference.
Right.
Now, the idea, as we illustrated yesterday of your time, is that between Sedona and Shasta, there's a direct connecting line of energy. And we demonstrated that the area you call Area 51 is smack, as you say, on that line. You follow?
Right.
This is primarily because they understand that ships navigate better on that line of energy. And so it is also functioning as a doorway for ships to come through, and for the ships that they are retrofitting and retro-engineering to operate in that wavelength, in that frequency. It gives them a little bit of a push, shall we say. Now, your city of Las Vegas is slightly off that line.
Right.
The idea, therefore, you will find, is that it draws and taps into that energy to some degree, but kind of at a skewed angle.
Right.
Is that not a perfect description of Las Vegas?
Hence Sin City.
However you wish to interpret that.
Right.
This is the energy relationship. Los Angeles, and again, the idea being that it is no accident what things are called, is an opportunity for it to literally become a city of the angels vibrationally. But that is up to you.
Right.
The vortex is there that allows for that potential, but it is up to all of you to align with it and demonstrate that vibrational state.
The Nazca lines in Peru.
Yes.
Who made those?
What you would call the indigenous beings, with some ancient understandings of technology. Some of it will be that which comes from off-world, but which became incorporated into the indigenous societies that existed at the time, sufficiently enough that they could, in that sense, call it their own, plus an understanding that they had gleaned with their own intuitive powers of how to amplify the ability to do those things simply by tapping into the infinite.
What purpose did the designs?
A number of purposes. They did, to some degree, function as markers, but the idea is that they were also used as an understanding of laying out geometric proportions that symbolized and represented a concept that you don't really have at this point in your world, in almost any culture. And it would be something like the idea of now what is going on with the crop circles, but in a very rudimentary form, in that they contain an implication of the mathematical information and ratios that underlie the template of physical reality. At the same time, they were also used ritualistically, in the understanding of being able to describe the formations, certain of the formations, from high above, through the idea of the accomplishment of what you call astral projection, in that as you leave your body, so to speak, and are then capable of describing what you see below, which can only be seen from the air, then it would be known by the teacher that you'd actually accomplished the astral projection, because there'd be no other way you could describe it. It was also used as the idea of the exemplification of ley lines on your planet, but from a very different kind of context, and also an exemplification of connections to other dimensional realms. In other words, many of those lines literally point to vortex spots that are literally doorways to other realms. It is also a map, a dimensional, an interdimensional map that leads directly to vortex spots.
What about the pyramids and the face on Mars? Are there any other artifacts on Mars?
Well, there is the pyramid that we talked about that we call the artifact, that only some people on your planet know of, and most of you know nothing about and have not yet seen photographs of.
Okay, because the face on Mars we've seen photographs of. Is
yes,
that real?
And we're not going to go into that at the moment.
Okay, but the main thing...
the idea of the pyramidal artifact we're talking about is not something that most of your population is aware of yet.
Oh, cool. Well,
there is another pyramid that has yet to be found by the majority of your population, although it has been seen by a few members of your population in some of the photographs that were taken by one of your orbiting satellites around Mars. But this has not been revealed yet to the public.
Moon may be hollow?
It is not hollow. There are underground bases there. It has some large cavern areas in it. It's not completely hollow, but there are artificially constructed engineering devices within it.
Okay, because also it doesn't rotate like other moons do, so...
Well, it's tidally locked to your planet.
Gotcha.
It does rotate. It's just that its rotation is exactly the same as its orbit.
Okay. So is there anyone living there now?
Well, there are bases that are inhabited by different extraterrestrial species, now and then, yes.
Can you say which ones?
We have a few bases on your moon. The Yael have a few bases on your moon.
Okay.
Some ancient bases from the Anunnaki still exist there that are used by different beings coming and going now and then.
Okay. Was it brought here? Is it like a ship?
No.
Okay.
It is a natural object that was created through the idea of a collision of your planet with another, and it broke off. But it has been put into position artificially, and it has been artificially engineered within to maintain certain gravitational and vibrational balances for your planet to allow you to evolve in a certain window of timing.
You talk about the moon landing that we experienced and what we were shown in the film, and if that was real, or if there was another moon landing, or if we've actually ever been there?
You absolutely have been there. Now, some things have been edited out. So let's just say you didn't see the whole truth, but you have been there. And any one of you can actually verify that quite easily with a powerful enough telescope. You can see the things you left on the moon, you know. You understand?
I do. Can we see things that other people left on the moon? Or other beings left on the moon?
Well, you have. Again, sometimes that's edited out of your collective information base, but many of you are already aware that people have photographed remnants of extraterrestrial bases and other things that have been placed on the moon for a variety of reasons from different civilizations. So some of you are aware that there are artifacts there.
I wanted to ask a little bit about the pyramids. So
which ones?
Since there are so many pyramids in Egypt and in Asia, is there also an era of when those were built and for a certain like global meaning when they were built?
The oldest ones, yes, approximately 10,500 BC, as you call it. And they had great understanding of what they were doing. Then the knowledge was lost over time, and a lot of the later pyramids do not function in the same way that the earlier ones did. The Great Pyramid of Giza served many different kinds of functions when it was operational in its pristine state, not the least of which was that initiate priests, when brought into the understandings of the mysteries of creation, would be led into the king's chamber and would lie down in the stone coffer, and they would be taught to generate the gamma state in a meditation. And the stone coffer and the king's chamber was designed to amplify and magnify that gamma state to the point where it reverberated and amplified and then suddenly popped them out of their bodies. So that in astral form they could go to higher realms, gain knowledge, bring it back, and share that knowledge with society, although of course the priesthood usually kept those things to themselves as to how they achieved that knowledge. They would just simply dole it out as they needed to.
The pyramids, how did they move the stones? I've heard some different
theories. The earliest
theories.
ones were moved through forms of levitation. And this is why we talk about the idea of the stone speakers, because when you understand the vibrations, the true vibrations of the stone, and you speak to them that way, whether with your own voices in harmony or through technological devices that can replicate those harmonies in a certain way, you can actually cancel the effect of gravity on the stone.
Something that really interests me is the excavation of the Sphinx.
Yes.
They say that it's about 8,000 years old, and
it's older than that.
Yeah, and that's what I really was interested in knowing. What is it?
10,500.
Nice. So, what is in it?
Under it?
Yes.
Mysteries.
Can't wait for that.
You have to.
I know. I know.
Imagine or visualize or recall a time when you may have seen a statue of Anubis. Are you familiar with this?
I'm not.
The jackal-headed god of the underworld, so to speak, Anubis. A jackal like a dog, sitting like the Sphinx, down, because that is originally what the Sphinx was, Anubis.
Thank you.
As Anubis is depicted most often in ancient Egyptian society, the Anubis jackal is sitting on a box. So is the Sphinx. Sitting on an underground box, an underground chamber of mysteries and secrets. Some of these have actually already been discovered and hidden from the public, but most have not, for it is not yet quite time for some of its mysteries to be revealed. But there are still several there in the underground box, in secret chambers that have yet to be opened and will not be opened until a deeper understanding is had of frequency, of resonance, of ratio and proportion. And when the right song is sung and the right vibration resounds, the box will reveal its secrets one after the other.
This may occur anytime between now and the year you call 2050. It depends upon exactly the rate of acceleration in your society, the rate of ascension, what happens with respect to contact between your world and other civilizations in the contact window between 2025 and 2033. For even contact will not necessarily be the right time for the revelation of some of the mysteries in the box under the Sphinx. But it will come.
What was the Ark of the Covenant, and who gave Moses the 10 Commandments, if they actually occurred?
The Ark is a device that was mostly a communication device, but also could be used to channel energy in a variety of ways for a variety of purposes. It was a communication device between those humans and an extraterrestrial society. The 10 Commandments were not originally 10 commandments. They were guidelines that explained the idea of the relationship between you and creation. I am the Lord your God, thou shalt not have false gods before me, was originally delivered as the idea of, I am all that is. Anything you may think is a false god isn't, because I am everything and cannot be false. Quite a difference. You understand?
Yes.
So that's the idea that those guidelines were delivered, both through the idea of the auspices of telepathic instruction, but also the device was delivered from an extraterrestrial society that people on your planet referred to as angels of God, but they basically were an extraterrestrial society.
So when Moses went up and got the tablets and all of that?
A ship landed on top of the mountain and delivered what needed to be delivered.
Thank you.
But again, there was much misinterpretation, because it's coming from a very high dimensional level and being translated or stepped down into physical reality. And in that step down process, there can be automatic distortion and misrepresentation of concepts that come from higher levels if the filters for fear-based beliefs are, shall we say, getting in the way. You are teleporting all the time, from moment to moment to moment to moment, but you are doing it, in a sense, frame by frame by frame by frame, instead of understanding that you can actually, well, to use a colloquial phrase, you can actually skip some of the frames.
How do you skip them?
By understanding what you're doing to begin with. You have to understand the mechanism before you can use the mechanism in a different way. So a deeper understanding of the fact that you're already doing that will allow you more opportunity to see how you can skip some of the frames, so to speak. You're not really skipping frames, but that's the way it will feel. The idea is to live in the present, not be in a hurry to get somewhere else or be something you're not at the moment, and just act on your passion to the best you're able with no insistence on what the outcome should look like, because that's what keeps raising your vibration. And raising your vibration is what allows you to understand and have the, what? Epiphany of how to see the structure of what we're talking about and see more clearly what it is you're already doing and see how to use what you're already doing in a different way, because when you can see the structure more clearly through the epiphany vibration, then you can understand that space and time are your side effects, they're your illusions, and they become more flexible and more malleable. And then you have an insight as to how you can use them in a different way to make it appear as if you are teleporting farther and farther distances. The thing you have to understand is that distance is an illusion. It doesn't really exist. Everything is here and now. So you have to really wrap your mind around that concept deeply enough so that it's ingrained within you that you're not actually going anywhere. In a sense, you're just recreating a different location here.
Is it possible?
Anything is possible. What you're asking is it probable?
Okay, thank you. Is it probable to fly in this life with your physical body like Superman or Peter Pan?
Yes, it is probable.
But what degree of probability depends upon the person's belief systems and the reason why they might choose such a thing and the need for it to happen in their reality.
Say you just wanted to fly just
Idle
for the fun of it.
curiosity doesn't usually do it.
Would your belief system have to be powerful enough to overcome gravity?
It's not about power, it's about clarity. There has to be a clear reason in how it serves you to do so, and how it may serve others for you to do so as well. There has to be a choice made within the idea of the exploration of a theme that is to the benefit of you and all concerned as to that happening. Now, that's becoming more and more probable in your reality as you get a better handle on the idea of what consciousness is and what beliefs are all about and how they manifest your physical reality experience, and the fact that it takes place within your consciousness and not really outside. So the idea really is a vibratory one, a resonance one, a frequency one. In the sense of how it happens in our reality, one of the ways we began to realize that such a thing was highly probable was when we first recognized that what you call location is actually a property of the object itself, not a place in which an object resides. So when you know that location is a property of the object and you learn to redefine the vibrational variable in the equation, the energy equation of the object, then if the location happens to be 50 feet off the ground and you impose that vibratory resonance or change that vibratory resonance within the location variable in the equation of the object, then the object must by definition start to exist 50 feet off the ground because that's its new locational variable. So it's all about frequency, it's all about resonance, it's all about knowing what your energy signature is and how your beliefs can align themselves to generate the appropriate energy signature to manifest that particular kind of an experience.